Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Iron Trail Motors Event Center, where we're holding a special committee of the whole council meeting with respect to staffing at this event center. I'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Wednesday, February 16, 2022. The time is 8:30 a.m. All councilors are present except one absent, so two absent. Okay, take the roll call, please, ma'am, if you could.
Sullivan. Johnson.
No, he's not a counselor.
Or Johnson. Sorry. Paulson. Here. Breedley.
Here.
Coffey.
Present.
Leonage. Present. Darren Zellander.
Okay, two absent. Do have a quorum. Thank you. The first item on the agenda today is to review the existing job description related to the Iron Trail Motors Event Center and present visual scenarios in the process of event scheduling. And our staff has put a really extensive package together for us to review. And so I'll turn this over to our park director and our event coordinator staff and Brian Silver. Brian?
Hi. Thank you for being here today to discuss our staffing levels. In your packet, we have all of our job descriptions laid out in the packet for you. Plus, we have several different organizational charts in the packet for you. I'll focus a little bit on the organizational charts that are in there. Those are the 11 by 17 pages. I also have it up on the screen for us here. Here you see our current organizational chart. And we have things a little bit color-coded in here for you. Gray items are those that are contracted services. So that would be the items that the YMCA will be doing for us, and the items that the Lundin Group have been doing for us. Then we have items that are in blue, which are full-time employees, and then items in pink, which are part-time employees. Now, part-time doesn't necessarily mean that they are a part-time employee, but they're dedicated to this building part-time. Myself would be one of those positions. My office is here. I do a lot of work here, but we also have one or two other parks throughout the facility that I spend a lot of time working on, or hope to be spending a lot of time working on and improving the park system. Our building and maintenance repair position is another one of those. He is responsible for the day-to-day upkeep of the systems in this building, in addition to the systems and building mechanical systems in our other park buildings. And then, of course, our administrative assistant is part-time. And our recreation assistants are part-time. And do want to thank you for approving the additional 5 hires yesterday at the Committee of the Whole. So then we move into our current staffing needs. One of the reasons that we're here today is because the Lundin Group has decided to go in a different direction and will not be serving as our marketing, sales, and booking agents. So we've got to figure out what we've got to do. So at this point, this is kind of what our immediate needs are in the building. We still have the YMCA, which has started classes here in the building. Equipment is on the way. So hopefully it will be arriving and be installed, and we'll be having a great grand opening of the fitness complex here in the next several months. But at this point, we do have the need to figure out what we are going to be doing for a sales and a marketing position. So you can see kind of how we have the flow chart here. We have the event and program services manager, which is Jim. Underneath them is the event coordinator, which we had presented in the packet here at one of the previous meetings for discussion purposes. We also have the need for a sales and marketing position at this point. We have our current 2 lead recreation assistants and our recreation assistants. We have our 2 ice arena managers. We have our 6 utility workers. We also are in need of housekeeping or janitorial. However we want to phrase that does not matter to me. But as everyone knows, we've got a lot of cleaning in this 144,000 square foot facility. Our staff has been doing a tremendous job trying to keep up with it. But when you compare our old building, I'll pick on the women at this point. In the Miners Memorial Building, when you came to the Miners, you had a total of 6 toilets that you could use. Each of our restrooms in this building have 12 female toilets in them. And we have 3 public restrooms. So our number of toilets has vastly increased. That's a lot more toilets to clean. There's a lot more floor space that needs to be cleaned. There's a lot more garbage cans that need to be emptied. And this building is a lot busier than the Miners ever thought about being. Prime example of that was this past weekend. The Miners could have never done what we did in this building this past weekend. We had our normal youth hockey going on. We also hosted the girls' high school sectional playoff games. At the same time, we were hosting a major conference in this section of the building. So we probably had 2,000 to 3,000 different people come through this building over the weekend. That is a lot of snow being drug into the building. That's a lot of toilets being flushed. That's a lot of garbage cans being filled up and needing to be emptied. So you can see where the additional staff needs are coming from just from the usage of the building. Now, one of the questions that the council, or one of the requests that the council had made is for a breakdown of what each of the jobs does. So I've given you the Cliff Notes simple version of what do each of these jobs do. Myself, Park and Recreation Director, I'm responsible for the overall park and facility oversight. That's everything from budget to operations to everything. In a perfect world, I would not have a designated role in this building. I'd be able to fill in and help with the oversight. We're not there yet. I'm not complaining. This is a great building. Love spending my time here, but I also have a vision and would like to be doing more for this community outside this building. We have the Event and Program Service Manager, which is Jim. He's responsible for the day-to-day oversight of this building and the operation of this building, including working with the arena and event center users and staff. And we've got a lot of varied users of both sides. You've got figure skating, you've got youth hockey, you've got high school hockey. Hopefully here in the near future, we'll have a junior hockey franchise. We also work with our local schools. As many of you are aware, we do a program where we invite the schools to come to take a field trip over here to do ice skating. We do that because it helps to promote not only this facility, but health and wellness in general by getting out and getting active. I believe so far in the past couple weeks, we have had about 12 different classes that have come over on field trips to take advantage of that. And I'm not even touching on the event center side customers that Jim has been dealing with. Jim also does the coordination of staff members to ensure proper implementation of all events in the building. Each event has its own little quirks, its own little needs and desires. I will focus on a high school event. Before a high school event, we have a nice checklist of everything that we must remember to do. We have certain doors that need to unlock, certain doors that need to lock. We have to get stanchions out in the lobby. We have to get signs on the outside of the building directing people to go into the correct doors. That's all in the lobby. Now, our arena staff needs to ensure that we have the best possible ice to be skating on. That means that they've had to do edging, they've had to get glass clean. In addition, we have spectators that are coming that we want to provide a great experience for. So our staff needs to ensure that the walking track is clean, the stands are clean, everything is staffed. Then concessions. Concessions has been, sadly, one of the banes of our existence this year. It seems like we have never had enough staff to operate both concession stands the way that we want to. This past weekend for the girls' game, we operated both concession stands during the high school girls' game. Because I was up running the center hung scoreboard, we were able to pull 2 people from downstairs to the upstairs concession stands. That left our downstairs concession stands short-staffed, but we had 2 concession stands running, still had lines. So we are hoping to get to the point where we have adequate recreation assistants that during all games we are able to staff to the levels that we want to have staffed. Then we have our sales and marketing position. This is something that the Lundeen Group has been doing for us, and they've done a fabulous job for us over the past year. They've developed an implementation of a marketing strategy representing the facility at trade shows, contacting potential customers and events. They also do selling in the facility. I would like for this position in the future to also do selling in the facility of advertising, capitalizing on a currently untapped revenue stream that we have. We sold some in ice advertising, but we have all these dasher boards around the rinks that we could sell. We also have this beautiful center hung video scoreboard that we could have advertising on. Those are 2 areas that we could be capitalizing on additional revenue streams. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody that has the time to be dedicating to contacting businesses and organizations to sell them that advertising. So I would love, as we move forward, our sales and marketing division to be doing that. The sales and marketing is the first point of contact with any potential customers, whether that is us reaching out to a potential customer or a customer calling us to get information. They coordinate giving all the pricing and tours, and they are involved with the customer up to the point that a contract is signed. At that point, ideally, we are going to be turning that customer over to our event coordinator, which is a position that we've been asking for. The event coordinator will take over and work one-on-one with that customer, whether it is a wedding or it is a trade show, whatever that event is, they will work with them. Do you want black tablecloths? Do you want white tablecloths? Cream tablecloths? Do you want red tablecloths with green napkins? And get all of those things coordinated. How do you want your room set up? Where do you want your dance floor? Where would you like the bar set up? Do you want the round tables, the rectangle tables, combination of both? Where's your food buffet? Who is your caterer, so that then they can be working with the caterer for coordination of use of the kitchen, so that no ball is being dropped at the point that the event takes place. So that's what the event coordinator is going to work through all of that. Now, depending on the event coordinator may be here the day of the event to go through. Take, for example, the SME conference, the mining conference that's coming up. The event coordinator would be here for it. But if it was a roundtable meeting discussion like this, The event coordinator is probably going to, day of the event, hand that event off to our lead recreation assistants or our recreation assistants. Because an event like we are having here today, we don't have to have a staff member designated for the event because it should run smoothly. It's a smaller meeting that we're having here today, so we don't have to have somebody throughout the entire event hand-holding our customer to meet their needs. Hopefully all those needs will have been met and the event will run smoothly. Our lead recreation assistants oversee all event setup and implementation in addition to concession operations. Over the weekend, we had 750 people. This room was set up for 750 people. Yesterday, our lead recreation assistant, with the help of a recreation assistant, broke down all the tables and chairs, cleaned the room, vacuumed, got everything taken care of, and set up for today. Now, after today's meeting, we've got another conference that is coming in tomorrow. So as soon as we're done in here today, staff will be coming in, breaking down these tables and chairs, which isn't a big deal because there's not many of them, but setting up for a banquet and corporate meeting for 150 people that will take place tomorrow. So you can see that there's a lot of things going on. This is not the minors where we could set up on Monday for this weekend's event. We have multiple events throughout the week, so it takes this whole team to go through. One of the questions, as we keep going through our staff roles, we have the building maintenance and repair. That's kind of self-explanatory. This is Ken's position. He oversees all of the building's mechanical systems and everything, from the heat and air systems to the boilers to the snow melt systems. Anything mechanical, Ken is taking care of, not only here, but also in our other park facilities. Then we have our utility workers, and we all know what they do. They bust their rear ends on a day-to-day basis, making sure that our customers have an enjoyable experience here. They are the backbone of our operations, from keeping the ice in tip-top shape, resurfacing the ice, cleaning the locker rooms, clean. As you walked in today, you probably saw we had a couple out there mopping in the lobby, cleaning in the lobby. They are busy all the time. I believe Councilor Johnson did a work-along with them here the other week. Hope you were not too sore after your 8-hour shift of working with them, but you can attest to the fact that they stay busy. One of the things that the council has asked for is, how does our staffing compare to other facilities? Well, if you remember back before we opened, while we were under construction, when we did our pricing strategy to determine what we would charge for room rentals and things like that, we did a broad comparison of comparable facilities. The two closest comparable facilities that we have to us are Giants Ridge and Fortune Bay. Now, neither of those facilities are identical to us, nor are they identical to each other. Giants Ridge, they operate their own kitchen in-house. We have elected to allow any caterer to come and use our kitchen, therefore allowing our local caterers to reap the benefit, economic benefit of this facility. So we don't have the kitchen staff that Giants Ridge does, or the catering services, or the bar operations that Giants Ridge does. We've contracted with Sawmill for all of our bar operations, and they have done a phenomenal job at that. In addition, Giants Ridge operates a golf and a ski aspect to their building. We don't offer either of those operations here. So we're not really comparing those staff members to our staff members. What we have that they don't have are 2 state-of-the-art ice sheets. So what we've done on this organizational chart is any block that has been filled in yellow is a block that is comparable from Giants Ridge to our facility. Any block that is filled in pink is a block that is comparable to Giants Ridge that our City Hall staff is performing those duties for us. Any block that is white is not comparable to our facility. So after you sit down and you look at the Giants Ridge comparable staff to our comparable staff, Giants Ridge has an equivalent of 40 and a half full-time employees to our facility here. We did the exact same exercise for Fortune Bay. Now, Fortune Bay also operates a kitchen catering service, including bar operations. In addition, they operate a hotel and a gambling aspect to their building, or to their operations. We don't do any of that. Again, we have the 2 ice arenas that they do not have. We did the same exercise. Yellow is comparable staff. Pink is staff from City Hall that's performing those duties for us. And the not filled in boxes are those staff that are not comparable. When you count up the number of staff Fortune Bay has that's comparable to us, they have an equivalent of 57 full-time employees compared to us. Now, if we go back and we look at our layout here, we don't have 57, we don't have 40 and a half. What we end up getting to at this point, our current staffing levels are right around 20 to 24 full-time or equivalent positions that we have. So that is the rundown of job descriptions and the flow charts that you guys had asked for. I will open it up to questions. You can ask myself or Jim Hunt any questions that you have. We'd be happy to answer anything or clear anything up.
Well, thank you, Brian, for a very comprehensive presentation. We have a lot of information, handouts in your presentation here on the big screen. So I'm going to ask, I'm going to go from my right to left and ask any counselor who has a question, comment, and we'll continue to do that until we get our questions answered. And then we'll all have comments, and I'll have some at the end as well, and some questions for you too. First, we'll start with Counselor Johnson. Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I only spent 8 of a 10-hour shift, and the one thing I took away from the staff I got to work with, and I think I said this before, is the amazing pride they have in this building. You show it, you demonstrate it here, and their attention to detail while mopping locker rooms and vacuuming, and it's amazing. And their frustration is they can't get to it all. I heard that, I must have heard that a dozen times from 4 different people I talked to, that here's our list. We only did 3 things today, but we only sat down for our break and our lunch. And I saw that. The need for dedicated housekeeping is just in that 8 hours. I could have strapped on one of those vacuum pack, those are the coolest things ever, they're vacuum cleaners, and walked around and just kept walking around this building for 8 hours. And when you get back around it, because of the use, it's there. So they're doing the best they can, and their frustration is that it's not good enough in their eyes, which they're doing an amazing job, but I really want to validate that I saw that. I really appreciate, Brian, you bringing all of this, and visually, I'm a visual person, so the colors really helps. And as we move forward, I think that we'll be sensitive, and this is one of the discussions we had with the staff. And even during their lunch, they're talking about what else needs to be done, what else we can do, how else can we improve. We're just talking about what we know right now in the middle of February. They're very well aware that when we start hitting March, April, and May, everything's going to change. All their jobs are going to be different, everything. So we're going to be going a year You know, you may have to come to us in July going, and we need 3 half-time people to mow the lawn or sweep the sidewalk, whatever we're going to be doing. And I think that's what I'm keeping in mind as we're moving through this process is we're not solving the problem today. We're addressing the needs, and those needs are going to change seasonally. And it may take us a couple, 3 years to understand what those seasonal needs are. Just like in the summer, we hire student laborers. You know, I really see winters being a need for student laborers or whatever the official name is for them. And I think we need to be sensitive to that and listen as we move forward and try to get a process in place that doesn't take, and I know our process takes a long time to hire some folks, but we need to start being cognizant of that and get ahead of that so we're hiring in August for what we need in November so that this building can maintain where it's at now. My hope is that in 20 years, the building looks better than it does now because of how hard the staff have worked and because of the leadership of the administration. So I guess I don't have any real questions right now other than what you've laid out as needs. And I didn't hear a whole lot of wants in what you were talking about. I heard a lot of needs, mostly needs, and I think those come from the staff up. So appreciate you coming today, and I think that's all I have for now. Thank you, Mayor.
To echo or to expand upon one of the things that you were saying of how the staff is working and everything, everybody knows that in the miners, the staff had the reputation of being lazy. Constantly heard, well, they do nothing. And they did do things. But the level of pride that our staff takes here has been taken to the next level. I found it funny that a compliment/complaint that I received after the last youth hockey tournament from the tournament organization, which is our youth organization, Baja, is they said, you know, your staff did a great job. They came in and checked in with us multiple times during the day to see what they could do better, how things were going, to make our needs, or to meet all of our needs. The problem we have is in the miners, if they weren't making a sheet of ice, we knew they were in the break room. They're never in that break room. And this building's so big, we have a hard time finding them. So one of the things that we have implemented is everybody while they're on staff has to carry one of our walkie-talkies. I don't have mine today because I didn't want it going off in the middle of the meeting. But this way we're able to find each other. We are also implementing a need something call, or see something, say something, like does this bathroom need attention? There will be a phone number that calls, and that number will go to our recreation assistant who has a walkie-talkie, who then, if it's an ice need, can radio the utility workers that, hey, they need a sheet of ice in this ring. If it's a bathroom, they can get one of our designated recreation assistants that's doing the housekeeping duties onto that bathroom right away. Or if it's somebody has slipped and fallen, we can be getting medical personnel to assist with them. So that is one additional step that we are taking, another improvement that we're trying to make for the customer experience in the building. We'll have a lot more of those changes over time. Like we've all said, the first year is the year where you're feeling things out, figuring out not only how the building itself physically operates, but how we need to staff and operate the building to meet and exceed our customers' expectations.
Thank you, Brian. Move to Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. This is fantastic. Is this on?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. This was really helpful. The flow chart was extremely informational, and it helps me just to understand what Councilor Johnson said, what your needs are. And I think it's really important because until we see something like, okay, you've got events going on in the ballroom section, you've got, there's so many moving parts in here. And it's really important that we understand what you need and then craft those job descriptions and work with the union on that, what do we actually need? So this was very helpful to me, and I really appreciate it. So what I see here is the three things I see that are new. Housekeeping, 2 FTEs, event coordinator at 1 FT, or at full-time, I always say FTE, sorry. And will that event coordinator at 1 FT fulfill the need for events taking place in the ballroom side or in the convention center side if we start getting really booked?
No, it will not.
And that's part of my concern, and I think Jim had wanted 1.5
To start out at the
to
gate,
start out.
yes.
So will 1 suffice for what we are looking ahead for say the next 6 months, Brian?
1 is a lot better than none. 1 takes workload off of Jim and myself that we've been doing in those, mainly Jim's been doing in that. Adds to our team and adds to the quality of services that we are providing our customers. I foresee that growing. Jim had asked for 1.5. Really, I foresee that growing to at least 2 FTEs, if not more, in the future. But like everything else that I keep saying with staffing, fiscally, I'm conservative. I don't want to spend money that we don't have coming in. I don't want to just create staff because it's going to make our life create jobs because it will make our life easier or because our competition has it. We need the revenue coming in to justify it. I believe at this point, with where we are in our projections of generating revenue and what we actually have on the books, that we can justify the 1 FTE at this point.
Okay.
And could you hold that thought one more, Councilor Paulson? I think Britt might have a comment in that regard, and then we'll continue. Thank you, Britt.
In discussion with staff, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim and Brian. In discussion with Jim and Brian, we had discussed the 1.5 versus 1 FTE, and in further discussion, we had actually discussed that I think instead of waiting the 6 months to make the administrative assistant full-time, let's make the administrative assistant full-time and then the event coordinator, because they are willing to give up the 0.5 FTE at this moment in event coordinator because that administrative assistant is that important that answering that phone call is the first piece. And the event coordinator half-time is not going to help if that phone call's not answered. So that we need that phone call answered first and then the handoff.
And I think
that's already, people have already been commenting saying, holy cow, somebody answered the phone.
Right.
So that's huge. And getting that, let's rip the Band-Aid off, make the administrative assistant full-time, bring the event coordinator in, and we start building our pieces from the correct me if I'm wrong, that was a discussion we had last week, was why we went to one event coordinator because we want the administrative assistant full-time instead.
And I'll tell you, on that particular topic, Brian and I arm wrestled this week. We debated this 1 verse 1.5, and I am all in favor of 1.5 or 2 out of the gate, fully understanding the fiscal conservativeness and getting that revenue in place. Operational, 1.5 is the number. And that 0.5 can really focus on multiple things, but that 0.5 can focus on bump and skate. Right, that is an opportunity that we can grow consistently. The administrative assistant is doing that at this point, along with a plethora of other duties. And that 0.5 I see as a focus on that aspect of our business in conjunction with supporting the staff over here.
Thank you, Jim.
In addition to focusing on the bump and skate, don't forget we have ice year-round.
Right.
Ice comes back in this building in May, and it will be in all summer. Now, we already have people calling and renting ice and everything, but our event coordinator position, in coordination with our recreation assistants, can do some of those programming aspects that we have not done in the past, such as our public pick-up hockey, where you come in, you pay a fee, and you have an hour and a half to do pick-up hockey. Our senior public pick-up hockey. our bumper car hockey league that I want to start. These are all programming aspects that we have to have staff that is performing them, that not only adds to the livability of our community, but also generates revenue for our facility.
Thank you, Brian. Julie, Councilor Paulson, please continue.
Thank you. Okay, so just to backtrack, we kind of segued into the one FTE on the administrative assistant side, but just after hearing what you all just said, so the .5 administrative assistant would be amenable to moving into a 1.0 FTE and assisting with partial responsibility of the event coordinator's duties when that event coordinator would be unavailable? Is it, okay, you want to?
No, so what I heard you say is the administrative assistant would put some responsibility or some duties towards the event coordination. Correct?
And that's not correct?
That is not correct,
Okay.
right? That administrative responsibility is wholehearted with taking phone calls, doing the administration work that includes running to the bank for quarters and a bunch of other items that help administratively here for this building.
But at the same time, that event coordinator, that administrative assistant then is really key in working with the event coordinator in terms of the initial contact with that customer, with the client, when they call in to book their event. Is that
No,
part of the flow?
no, I really don't. I don't see it that way,
Okay.
Councilman. And currently, the administrative assistant is doing the administrative work here and doing the bump and skate communication, question answering, booking, staffing, just short of execution. And then include all the administrative stuff.
Okay.
They would not be part of the event execution particularly.
They would get the cold calls. They would be the ones that would answer the people on the website. I saw you on the website looking, can I get some more information? So they would be the cold call information, directing phone calls.
And I think that's kind of what I'm getting
That's what
at.
kind of what you're getting at. And then they would be alleviating duties of the event coordinator, because right now it's still only there from 9 to 3, so anytime after that, Jim's making his own copies, Jim's running to get quarters, so it would be assisting Jim just even more.
Absolutely.
And remember, the event coordinator is getting the one-to-one action with the client after the contract's signed.
Right, and I
So
understand that.
She would be helping more with the sales aspect, which we are going to need.
And I understand that. What I'm getting at is, when we wanted to establish this meeting and kind of do a mock exercise. So I pick up the phone and I want to book a conference. Who is going to take that phone call? Who is going to be my initial person that I connect with?
All right, we have multiple positions. We have our marketing position here. I'm a visual learner, so we have our sales position. We have our event program service manager. We have our event coordinator. We have our lead recreation assistant. We have our recreation assistant. We have housekeeping. We have building maintenance and repair. And we have our administrative assistant. So, marketing has been doing the promotion of the building. Marketing has gone to the trade shows and is getting our word out there. Like the Lundin Group has gone to 5 different shows representing this facility, getting the word out there. They're putting together the advertisements, putting together everything so that the customer knows that we're here and we can do their event. So I am the customer, I call, I'm going to the sales department. So you sales department are my first point of contact. So I'm going to tell you, yes, I'm wanting to do a wedding for between 250 and 400 people. You're going to let me know that, yes, we can accommodate that. These are the type of facilities that we have. This is our pricing structure. Do you have a caterer already selected? No. Okay, when you have a caterer, we do have you can choose your own caterer. If you're going to do alcohol with it, you would have to use our alcohol service vendor. So you start working with them. Well, I'm not signing right then and there because I'm calling the other places. So then I'll probably end up calling you back again, asking another question or two. So you've started a file on my event so that every time I call, you can know what event it is, know what you've already told me, know what I'm already interested in, and you don't start over. You can just answer that one question and you make those notes. As soon as I decide, wow, the Iron Trail Motors is the best bang for my buck, and their sales department has done a tremendous job, I want to have my event there. You get together, you've probably given 2 to 3 tours of the facility at this point to them, and you sign the contract. At that point, you are taking your information and passing it down the line to our event staff. That is going to start working one-on-one with that customer, fine-tuning what you sold them to the point of implementation. Now, that is going to be, I'm going to work with you on multiple times. Just a few examples. As we work through some events, started with I want X number of round tables and a head table. Well, a couple weeks later, that changes to, no, my head table needs to be bigger. Oh, but with my head table bigger, I'm going to have to eliminate one of these round tables. Oh, I forgot I need a present table set up inside. Well, now I'd really like to add the dance floor. Initially, I said I wanted the white linens, but with the flower choices that we're going with, white's not going to look good with that. Can I change to black? Then somebody else from the organization calls in and makes a change or two. Once we get to the day of event, and you walk into the room, there may be, oh, I really don't like the bar set up here. I want the bar set up over here. And there's that bending over backwards.
Who's doing that?
That's our staff that is helping to move the
We
bar.
want to know who's doing that.
The handing, that one-on-one.
Handling the one-on-one is the event coordinator.
Right.
It is handling all of that stuff.
Who's doing the pre-stuff before that?
That was my question. Like, this is awesome. This very much
Yes, but
helps me
who's doing
with
specific, go back to
process.
specific. So who's
Okay.
doing the actual signing of the contract? Who's sitting down with them? And who's
Sales is signing the contract.
Okay, and taking the deposit.
And taking the deposit. As soon as contract is signed and deposit is received, it is handed off to the event coordinator here, who is working one-on-one. Now, the event coordinator is my person, is my go-to person. I foresee us growing to the point that we're going to have 2 to 3 event
Let's
coordinators.
keep talking for this one before we go back.
Okay.
Okay, so can I just...
Please continue, Councilor Paulson, your line of thoughts here.
Okay, so again, my initial phone call would be considered a cold call.
So different story. So now I went to that wedding and it was great. It was wonderful. I've never been to a trade show. I'm getting married next year. After that wedding, my boyfriend says, let's get married. Okay, that was fine. Let's do this too. I go upstairs and march to the office. We knock on the door. I want to get married here. Who do I talk to?
Okay. You've just walked into the office. You want information.
I talked to Jen.
Yep, you're going to be talking to our administrative assistant, who is your first point of contact for that cold call. Or you just call in. Now, Jen is going to get you...
I don't mean to interrupt you, Brian,
Yes.
and I apologize, but that's what I'm asking
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
0.5 being the...
And she's only here from 9 to 3. So if I come in at 7 o'clock in the morning for work and there's nobody here,
So by going to the the full-time 1.0 FTE that administrative assistant will be receiving my phone call.
Yes.
So that's what I meant, Jim, when I was saying
Gotcha.
that will be kind of that initial contact person that will be working in conjunction with the event coordinator. And the way you laid this process out, I understand the flow much better. My question is, when I make that initial phone call, who am I going to speak with? And that would be the administrative assistant.
Yes.
Is that correct?
If you call during business hours, you're going to talk to our administrative assistant. If you call at 9 o'clock at night, you get our phone tree, and you can hit number 1, which takes you right to the sales department, and you have a message in your box in the morning to call them back.
And I get that, but part of what that administrative assistant meant, duties or responsibilities, it is in part of that sales.
Part of the selling.
Right.
Yes.
So I think that's what I'm looking at because when we crafted the administrative assistant job description, I guess I have to look back in here. I don't know that that's in there. So I wanted to make sure, Jim, that I'm understanding the right process with the flow of when I call in, or anyone calls in. What is my first point of contact? What is their responsibility in terms of the return phone call if it's after hours, or at what point do they hand it off? Is it going to go from the administrative right to sales and marketing then? Like the administrative assistant will answer those initial questions?
Yes. And I don't know how much of those initial questions that administrative assistant answers, because we have a sales department that knows the pricing. They can look at the availability to answer those real quick questions. Hey, are you available on July 24th? The administrative assistant, that is not necessarily their role. That's a sales department. So it is, hello, thank you for calling Iron Trail Motors Event Center. How can I help you? To open up the door on that initial relationship and quickly passing it off to the sales department.
Okay, that's exactly, so then the call transfers to the sales and marketing department. And that, what you're proposing as a 1.0 FTE in sales and marketing, will that be a day job?
Yes. Traditional work hours.
Traditional work.
Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Traditional work hours.
So technically then, these two, the administrative assistant and the sales marketing, are going to be available during normal business hours, Monday through Friday.
Yep.
Okay, so the majority of the questions can be fleshed out, answered before the transfer over to the event coordinator.
Hopefully, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
a lot of them, yes.
Okay, thank you. That was
Yeah.
mainly what I wanted to ask in terms of the flow. And then in the sales and marketing, that's be the third position you want to add. That sales and marketing portion of that's actually going to be very key, and that's what we lost in the Lundin group. So with that being said, and not to rip open a can of worms here, but I'm always looking at budget, and I also agree with Brian, I want to be fiscally conscientious and conservative in what we're doing. But with what we were outlaying for the Lundin group for consultative purposes or marketing or whatever their role was during the time that they've been with us, will that open us up, Sherry, to allow the additional requests that Brian and Jim are asking?
Yes, it will. Realize that depending on whether you want that sales marketing person to be contractor or an employee, it's gonna cost more.
Okay, and we can talk through that, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you letting me go through the flow, because that's kind of what I was trying to understand is who's actually doing what in what role, and so that this exercise really helped. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Councilor Freedy. Like the barber shirt. Next.
So right now, we're looking at 2.5. That's critical to add as soon as possible.
Correct.
2.5.
Correct.
Event coordinator, sales and marketing, and an additional 0.5 in administrative assistant.
Would also love to add housekeeping or janitorial.
We are
at
having,
full-time.
we've not been quiet, that we're having a hard time getting recreation assistants in the door. And so if we could hire dedicated janitorial staff and advertise it that way, I think we'd have a better opportunity. I think there are people in this world that like to do janitorial service, we just haven't found them. And hiring as recreation assistants isn't working. We can find concession stand workers, people that want to be a second part-time job because the hours at the concession stand are after work. But we can't find that janitorial staff, and a lot of the janitorial hours is during the day. And it's
Well-
just having a hard time.
Too often, what we hear is what you should have done, what you could have done, rather than what you are doing and what you've done.
Yeah.
And I want to compliment you for what you are doing and what you've done, and your staff as well. I'll echo Councilor Johnson. I've seen a renewed enthusiasm in your staff, and a sense of pride for where they work and what they're doing. And you're pulling it off, even though you're short-staffed. I know there's long lines at the concession stand, and you're going to hear about it, but the reality is you're doing what you can with the staff that you have to serve the public that's in this building. And you're doing as good a job as we possibly can, as short-staffed as we are. The concern that I have, though, is, and we knew that this was going to be an evolution in this building in terms of what our needs would be and how we're going to fill those needs. How we're going to fill those needs is going to be reliant on revenue, is what I'm anticipating, obviously. And so we're in the position right now that we're above and ahead of that projected revenue so that these positions can be afforded. That's what my most significant concern is.
Mayor, if I may, that's where I feel the sales and marketing is like, and I totally agree with you guys, but you can't eat and do this service if you don't have events coming in. We need that generated events and revenue and then, so I really think it's important. I also think the janitorial is extremely important. You want to keep this building in tip-top shape.
True, but we need to get the people in here first. And that's, I mean, I'm looking at, we're losing our sales and marketing.
Correct.
Already essentially happened. And so that's a gap that needs to be filled with immediacy. I mean, that's imminent, that's
Yes.
essential.
And my recommendation is that those positions be in-house positions, not contracted. I believe a couple council meetings ago, you guys pointed out that, we get phone calls, which we have to return. We get emails, which have to be returned. And we're able to do both of those. The one area that we forget that we have customers is that person that had the wedding and goes upstairs and walks in, the walk-in customers. If we contract out, then they're not here. They're operating from wherever their office is, whether that was the Lundins in Duluth, and they were here a lot because it was convenient for them to get here a lot. But the next closest organization that does that is down in the cities. They're not going to be here often. There's a group out of Chicago that'll do that. They're never going to be here. But if we have that position in-house, that sales and marketing position, which I believe in the future is going to grow into two positions, a marketing person and a salesperson, if not into multiple positions. But for right now, to keep the bookings coming, we need that sales and marketing aspect to the building. It doesn't need to be a part-time secretary or administrative assistant that is answering the phone calls, because working with those customers, especially these large customers, it's more than a 5-minute conversation. It can be hours of conversations of working through the nuances of their needs and expectations, and can we meet those needs?
Gary?
So our most pressing position is the 1.0 sales and marketing at this point in time.
That and the event coordinator.
And I don't want to denounce, that if you bring these people on and do not make the administrative assistant full-time, they need to be able to hand off this stuff to somebody, and then not having that person there there's a lot of work that goes into this, typing, answering phones, copying, making, doing these things, chasing down payments, booking reservations, walk-ins.
So 2.5.
Yeah.
Yes.
is what we're looking at. And I know the additional 2.0, but we do, recreational assistants have taken on some of the tasks.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we have the possibility of at least managing that in the interim.
Correct.
While seeking the people necessary to keep people coming in to
In the interim, our sales and marketing department, you are looking at it right here, and we're going to be relying heavily on our lead recreation assistants and our administrative assistant so that we are not dropping balls. My concern is, as we lose our contracted sales and marketing, that adds a lot, our plates were already full, that adds a lot of responsibility to both Jim and myself, and I fear some balls getting dropped, and we don't want to do that. We want every single customer to feel like they're the most important customer and their event's the most important event, because to them, it is.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Freedy. I'm just going to be brief. I don't want to rehash all the questions that were asked because they're all really good questions, and the marketing piece of it and all the information you provided. This is very helpful to have this put together. Thank you to staff for doing so. So my comments are this. You know, it's causing us a little bit of angst when we look at what's coming down the pipe. We're learning how this moves forward. Unfortunately, I've had the opportunity to be working in an environment like this back in the day and not too far in the past. And so I'm supportive of the 2.5. I'm supportive of the full-time recreation assistant. We have to hire them. We have to hire a marketing and sales representative, and we have to hire an event coordinator. How you do that, I leave it up to staff to determine, make the adjustments to that. I do believe that we talked about contract services as opposed to part-time, as opposed to full-time, but really have to be in-house personnel, working straight days, regular working hours, and working within the labor market environment under the ASME local and 454 or MAPE or whatever that's going to be. I think they need to be city employees moving forward for that, even though it's an additional cost associated, but I think we're going to benefit in the long run from that, be able to control the environment in that regard as well. And so I'm supportive of all three of those positions. I think we have to move forward those positions and find a way in which to expedite the hiring, not only the full-time administrative position and the event coordinator, and as we move forward with the sales marketing. So all that has to be done in a relatively efficient period of time, whatever it takes to get that accomplished. I'm on board with those positions. So that's being said, I have nothing else to say. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. And, sorry, I had my mittens on, it's a little chilly in here. It's
nice in here.
So I just have to, I know when we talked about the 0.5 administrative assistant, in the back of my mind, I knew that 0.5 wasn't going to cut it, that we should have just bit the bullet and done it full-time with everything that's going on in this facility. And I appreciate Councilor Johnson going with the staff to see what all gets done in here. However, I took the other approach, and I very quietly came in here and I just wandered around and spoke to strangers and asked how they felt and how things were going for them. Everything was positive. The people that I spoke to, there was a woman with her daughter in figure skating. Didn't know her, but we just struck up a conversation. And it was nice and refreshing that they didn't know who I was and that I was just asking the questions on how they felt the facility was running. And it was all very positive. I also spoke with our concession stand workers and felt their frustration. But we have some fantastic people that work here. So I think I have a better idea of how this chart works. At first I was concerned about the event coordinator being here and staying with the entire event, which you clarified that they wouldn't have to be. So that kind of helps with that job description also as to where things get passed off down the line. So I think you did a great job. And, you know, the Giants Ridge and the Fortune Bay, these are organizations that have been operational for years. So it's nice that we can get that information from them. And I think all of us knew that when this facility opened, this is brand new for all of us. And we're growing and we're learning what is needed to keep it moving forward. And I know in the beginning, we were very hesitant to hire too many because we didn't know what was going to be booked here. So I think we have a little bit better idea, and I appreciate the chart that you set up for us. Thank you.
Okay, you're probably not going to like to hear what I have to say as per usual. I think we're going about this backwards, okay? I think the most important position that we don't have right now is the sales and marketing. And I don't believe in-house is the proper way to do it. I think we need to go outside. If you want national things here and other things, you got to have somebody that can move around the country and do stuff on their dime, of course, if they're willing to do it with some type of reimbursement. Otherwise, you're going to be relying totally on word of mouth and not actually marketing is what we need to do to fill this facility on a year-round basis. If we have one event that screws up and word of mouth gets around that it's not good here, I still want to see a group like the Lundin group who all said that they haven't done a bad job, but they got some bad publicity out of our city council that said they weren't doing a good job. And I want to see us go nationwide, even going around Minnesota to book things after events to get them to move from St. Cloud or wherever it might be, Minneapolis to here. Is not an easy job. Ask events around the state of Minnesota how they get approached, what they do, and there's things you have to go to talk to them, then bring them here to see what we have. You can't rely on just phone calls. That's no way to market a facility. You can't just do it, even though you may have websites. I believe we need somebody there. You could do one-on-one, one in-house and one out that does your marketing for you. That's a possibility. But I don't think you can do it with just somebody in-house. I believe the 2.5 is a need. Okay? So I appreciate you listening, but if it comes to just in-house, unless they got tons of experience and they've been all over the country and need to go when they need to go, I'm not going to work to hire that position. I can tell you that. Because I've been around 40 years in a business that I went to lots of conventions. And you don't just have them in-house.
Thank you, Councilor Bearable. Councilor Barnzelli.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm sorry, then we'll go have our staff here, Scott and Amanda. Go ahead, Councilor Barnzelli first. Councilor Barnzelli.
My thing is here, coming into this building for the first hockey game, boy, I got goosebumps. And it got better every game they had in this building. My brother-in-law over in Networth, he thinks Virginia doesn't know anything. Well, he's the one that's got that old barn over there where you can't walk in it without falling. So I think we got a good thing going, and it's the teams from Minneapolis came up here. And it's just going to get better and better every year. They want to come up here. I think we got a good building here, and it's getting better, like you say. So it's just too bad my granddaughter, she graduates. She won't be here next year. But I hope I'm still here to be with the councilors and the mayor.
Well, yeah.
I think you got a good park, a good building here, and it's getting better every day. You've got guys working on this thing. So it's an excellent thing for the city of Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Barnzelli. We made a round of questions and comments to the staff, and we've got the answer that we need to some degree to help move forward with our decisions. So before we go out into the audience, our city administrator, Britzy, is there anything else to add, Britt?
I'd just say we would definitely agree with the majority here that's saying you need that marketing and sales. And then next is an event coordinator, you need that point of contact.
Well, you know, that's really good, that's really good information, and I'm really pleased by the fact that it comes from our finance director that support of these positions. So we'll go into the audience. We have two people in the audience today. We have Amanda Metza, the representative for local ASME 454, and the city representative that works for our Public Works Department, Scott. So, Amanda?
So I feel like we spend a lot of time with you guys lately. But basically I wanted to support, what management here is saying, right, in regards to these positions, and respond to a couple of things. But I also want to touch on the fact that I think we're overlooking the other needs that have been asked for. And I want to encourage the council to move quickly on those as well. But first, to the issue of the marketing position, the sales and marketing that was raised by the counselor, having somebody in-house, it depends on what you post for. If you post for a professional level marketing and salesperson who has the experience to go to trade shows and to do those sorts of things, that's what you're going to get. And we have those people locally, and I would encourage the council to keep that in-house and to post and to find somebody who has the capacity to do that, because as management has noted, having somebody in-house who can accept walk-ins or who knows your communities is important, and I think that they have rightfully asked to keep that in-house. Second, I think obviously they've identified this top-level need with marketing and sales leaving. You have to have that brought in, and you have to have somebody doing this coordinating work, because that is taking up so much time, not just from management, but from your utility workers and other full-time staff and part-time staff. But what is also included on this current staffing needs is housekeeping, which I think is probably more accurately referred to as janitorial custodial. And I just wanted to raise that as an issue. AFSCME on an international level and locals and other large entities has put a lot of time into researching housekeeping janitorial custodial needs. That is primarily done on a school district level, because there are so many janitorial staff that we represent, but it's certainly applicable here. This building has 144,000 square feet. And what has been found in order to maintain and to not create more maintenance level work is that you need 1 FTE for every 20,000 square feet. That, if you do the math on that, that's 7.2 FTEs. Obviously, that's divided amongst your utility workers who have some of these responsibilities and your rec assistants who have some of those responsibilities. But this has a ripple effect. If your utility workers have other responsibilities that they need to do, or if your recreation assistants are struggling to keep up at concessions, if you are not hiring FTEs to do that dedicated custodial work, it is having ripple effects all the way down your staffing structure, even all the way up to building maintenance and repair. Because if stuff isn't cleaned and maintained, it's going to have maintenance impacts. And so I understand the, I think I say this every time I come before you, but I understand the financial impact, but it has other financial impacts, in terms of how many part-time staff you're hiring, in terms of the impacts on your full-time staff as well, and overtime even after large events and things like that. I would encourage you not to overlook that for too long, nor to overlook the upgrade of the administrative assistant to a full-time position. On a contract level, I would just like to address that. You have somebody who's training into that position. On a contract level, that position goes to the senior qualified if it is reposted as a full-time position. And so I would encourage you not to leave somebody in that position training who may be bumped out, for a long time. This was our initial conversation we had with you in hoping that it would be posted as full-time. That wasn't done, and now that, staff is here asking for that, I would encourage you to make a decision and to move forward with that, so that it can be filled appropriately and permanently with a full-time person. So that's all we have today. Thanks.
Anything from you, Scott? Okay, Scott and Amanda, thank you very much. And I'd like to make one more comment, if I may, and then we'll go around the room once again and discuss it even further. So, when it comes to housekeeping, you know, a very good point, we talked about the housekeeping, what your needs are. And my thoughts are that with housekeeping, you know, it's like a custodial service, and that's what our recreational assistants are doing, some of them, doing some of that work along with utility work. So we approved up to 10 full-time equivalents for our recreation assistants. Difficult time and getting those recreation assistants to come on board because it's the limited duties and responsibilities that we have. And so if we look at the two full housekeeping positions, which I support, I think once those things are developed, I believe that it has to come from that pool of the 10 full-time equivalents that we approved. Because if we hire 2 full-time equivalents, you know, that leaves us with 8 full-time equivalents recreation assistants that can do the other things, the concessions and things I suggested. Just as something to discuss moving forward as one of the strategies, if it's feasible or not to do so. So I think within that construct of this organizational chart, within the construct of the needs that you've addressed and making these adjustments to our positions moving forward, I believe that it's important for us to have those housekeeping positions as well. And I think we need to try to figure out, you know, a structure from within that organizational structure to make adjustments to that. I would ask you to look at that as well. But those are just thoughts for me, and I think our city minister has another path.
I just want to anecdotally, Ken,
Yeah.
I think I've told Sherry, I think I've told everybody, you were here on Saturday, jokingly on this last week, Jim Hunt came to me and said, on the 12th, we have every recreation assistant is working except for one who was out of country, and me, because I'm in the When I Work system, which is their scheduling system. He looked at me and said, seriously, honestly, what are you doing on the 12th? And I said, I can't be here, I have a wedding I have to go to. He goes, every single person is working in the building. He goes, no, I'm not joking, Britt, what are you doing on the 12th? And I said, I can't be here. So if you were in this building on Saturday, we had every employee working. And you saw the lines at the concession stand still. So that tells you the need of people. We had every single person here. And I couldn't be here because Brian kicked him out of the scoreboard, out of the scoreboard booth and said, go down to the concession stand, I'll take over. That's how dire we need of people. We had everybody working except for the one who was not in the country, and I couldn't get here, and it killed me that I couldn't get here. If I was not doing the wedding, I would have came and done it.
Well, we were still short a bunch, right?
Right, we are still short a bunch.
And I think-
Because this week, the 3 are moving out and we're...
Right, and so my thoughts were that as we're, you know, all the events are working, that's fine, all hands on deck, it was so phenomenal. I mean,
And that wasn't our largest event.
No, but everybody's here on Saturday, but for me, is it, you know, if you're gonna do housekeeping, you know, and we have 10 full-time equivalents, and we're looking at 2 full-time housekeeping, and housekeeping would do some of the things that the full-time equivalents are doing. My question is, as a path to consider, is that feasible? If it's not, I'm comfortable with that as well. I do believe we need the 2 full-time housekeeping positions.
And then one other anecdotal thing is, you talk about the event coordinator and the thing, you know, the lead recreation assistants also would help on the day of event things. I walked in this room today, and Brian, I walked in and the tables were set up a different way. I walked in and said, no, you gotta change it. So I made them move the tables around and move them, change the room. Because that's what happens on the day of events. People walk in, I don't like the setup, we gotta move everything around. So Kyle, our lead recreation assistant, jumped in with Brian and Steve Johnson, and we moved the tables, and Mayor, and moved the tables around the corner. Because that's what happens on day of events. You have to punt and change things around.
Well, very good point, Grit. So what I would like to do before you go, Councilor Bearable has a comment, but before you do go to Councilor Bearable, the issue for me is I think what we're looking at is this is a personnel committee, the whole meeting. And I believe that recommendations should come out of this meeting to go to the next committee, the whole meeting, or if we could take action, today, right? We have to try to move this forward somehow.
Personnel committee. Oh, it's just...
Yeah, it's a personnel committee. We have to find a way in which to move this forward as, you know, in a manner that's going to be beneficial to the city and how we do about that. But again, once again, I'm comfortable with what the recommendations are, and we have to find a way in which to push this forward as efficiently and as effectively as we possibly can. So then we'll go to Councilor Bearable and then back over to Councilor Johnson. Councilor Bearable.
Yeah, I think you may have misunderstood what I said about the sales and marketing individual. I'm not saying we have to go outside for a contract position. I'm saying we have to find the right fit, but we need both of those positions to make this successful. So if we come up with somebody recommended, we go to, say, St. Louis, Missouri, and there's an event there that we need to be there, we use travel expenses to get them there to do this, so they're not doing it on their own dime, which they would be if they're employers. But to find those people that have really good, solid experience, you're going to pay more. I don't care what it is, you're going to pay more. Thank you.
Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. So thank you, Amanda, for the housekeeping. That's my priority. After living it for only 8 hours, we have to have people having a couple, and we're talking full-time equivalents, not necessarily, it's a semantics thing for me, but having dedicated housekeeping people are going to be the people that see the changes in day-to-day. They're going to notice that the toilet next to the hockey, it keeps leaking. They're wiping up the same water every day. That's not something random people are going to notice. They're going to notice, as I did when I was cleaning, that there was a couple cases of water inside one of the bathrooms in the locker. It had probably been there for a couple of days, everybody just thought it had been put there. So finally I said, what is this? Those are the kinds of things that a housekeeping person would notice. They're a first line of defense in not deferring maintenance. They're the first line of defense in seeing patterns, that they notice that the bathroom on the first floor next to the elevator needs to have 2 garbage cans in it instead of 1, because it's always overflowing every day. So having those housekeeping is really a priority for me. I have to disagree that pulling out the rec assistants to do that. As Brett said, one of the benefits of being a rec assistant is I can work Friday nights and Sunday mornings, and that's all I'm going to work, which probably ends up being about 0.02 full-time equivalent. And if we have 10.02 equivalents, that's still only 0.2 of a full-time equivalent. So the number of bodies is irrelevant to the number of full-time equivalents. So having the housekeeping dedicated is truly something I would like us to see move forward with today. Because it's also a double-edged sword. If we don't have housekeeping to keep this building clean, people aren't going to come because the building's not clean. But we can't, our concern is, well, we can't really afford to keep the building clean so that people come. I'd rather spend extra money right now making sure this building is clean and taking the chance that they're coming. They will come. They have been here. Brian just described what it's like. They're just going to set this meeting for tomorrow. There's a very good chance this room could be used at 1 o'clock this afternoon and has to be turned over as soon as we're done. Those are rec assistants doing that. While they're doing that, they're not cleaning the hallways. I would guess housekeeping would prioritize the public areas and the bathrooms, the hallways, the track, everything that's being used every day, all the time. The stuff we notice when we pop in, oh, there's popcorn. Yes, we came skating. My second grader was skating on Monday. The first thing I noticed when we walked in, knowing full well how busy the weekend was, there was a little popcorn on the floor. My mental note went, wow, I wish we had housekeeping, because I know that after we left on Monday, they redid the sheet of ice, because there was 60-some little kids scraping around on the ice on both rinks. So they had to make ice in both rinks. So I'm really a proponent of the housekeeping and making that happen. I'm going to I'm checking my notes here. I also think that as we look for sales and marketing, we have to remember that, as Councilor Baraboo said, these people are going to be going places. Maybe the next time the league has a conference, we have a table. The City of Virginia Iron Trail Motors Event Center has a table there. You're absolutely right, Charlie. That's where other cities, where all the other vendors are going to go and go, hey, we've never been to northern Minnesota in the summer. Let's go have our conference there for the engineers or the truckers or whoever. So I think we need to be very careful of how we create those positions as we move forward. And I agree with the mayor, we have to move these today. We have to get going on them because it takes forever to get the specific job descriptions done. So I'm hoping that we can at least get this stuff moving. We have a meeting Tuesday where we can make it official to move it forward, and hopefully we can have people hired before we have to start mowing grass. And I'm all for a full 4.5 full-time equivalents at this point. Just we can't wait to see what we need. I think you've done a great job, Ryan and Jim, and the rest of the administrative staff presenting. These really are needs right now. We need to have these positions filled. We'd like to have, maybe the want is 3 housekeeping positions or 4, but the needs are laid out right here, and I feel we need to move forward on it. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, thank you, Councilor Johnson. I just want to clarify that I'm not proposing these housekeeping be recreation assistants or full-time equivalents. These housekeeping positions have to be full-time staff, not recreation assistants. They have to be full-time staff, not doing recreation assistant work. That was the point I was trying to make there. So I think that was the differentiation of your request. That's why it's on the organizational chart, separate from recreation assistants. I want to clarify that. So thank you. So does anybody else, anything else? And we're probably going to ask for a motion moving forward to some degree, but let's go around one more time. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So what I see that we need to do, the next item on our agenda is review the event coordinator position description. But based on your flow chart, I see what we need to do is create the sales and marketing job description, as well as a housekeeping janitorial job description. So we have to, if we want to move on this, we have to get a job description in place for that. And then I also would be comfortable going to the full 4.5 FTE, or FT, I guess it's how you, because equivalent is the E. So I think that's kind of where I'm coming from, my position. And before I forget, I just wanted to publicly thank Jim Hunt, Brian, and the entire staff for the most amazing commitment and dedication last weekend to the Mercy Tour Conference. I had quite a lot of feedback and emails, just really appreciative to the staff, to the attentiveness, to facilitating these beautiful projectors and screens being put in and accomplished that they were actually working. So I just wanted to publicly thank you on behalf of those that have sent me emails for the amazing job that you all did. So I just really wanted to leave on that note, but I am in full support of the 4.5.
Thank you very much. From top to bottom, we have a tremendous team here.
Yeah, you surely did. And I just want to echo before what Councilor Paulson said. I was here all weekend for that Mercy Conference. It was amazing, great staff, very professional. This is the kind of event we want to have all the time. This is the kind of professional services that we want to provide all the time. So thank you for that. Councilor Frieden.
Yeah, I wouldn't overlook the Iron Range Tourism Bureau as an outside agency that could assist us in marketing this, especially statewide. I know they already did that down at the state fair last year. So that's another entity that we have available to us that is excited about this facility and marketing it on our behalf.
Very good partnership to have with them.
Very good. I'm more pressed in my mind with the 2.5 at this point in time. I think there's kind of an all-hands-on-deck type of mindset that needs to be in place in this building with regard to housekeeping. Case in point, even you as administrators, if you walk by a full garbage can, you know you're going to maybe have to tie it up and put in a new bag because that's what needs to be done. I did that when I was a principal. I drive off hallways after lunch hour, testing whether I'd be grieved by the union or not, typically in a joking fashion. But at this point in time, I think the outside public coming in and marketing events and securing events and calendaring events is what's critical to generating revenue for this building. And so I'm in full favor of the 2.5 and then looking at ways that we can reinforce the housekeeping in some fashion at some point. But at this point in time, I'm more in favor of the 2.5 as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Frieden. Anything from you, Councilor Beyondich? Okay, Councilor Bearable, anything else to offer? No. Councilor Brunzelli, nothing? Okay, anything from staff? Britt? Okay, so we've had some opportunity. Councilor Johnson, anything else you'd like to add?
I was ready to make some motions.
Let's go.
I'm going to do these individually just so that there's not confusion. I'll start with moving that we look at creating a sales position, and I would like to suggest that it be made because if we're traveling, that's going to be, I think that we need to look at it being in that direction, but I would rely on staff to do that. So I will move that we create a sales position and have staff determine appropriate placement of it.
I'll support for discussion.
Okay, motion by Councilor Johnson, just a clarification on the motion. Will that be sales and marketing?
I guess for now, sales and marketing.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Councilor Johnson and supported by Councilor Paulson for further discussion. Councilor Paulson.
You clarified. I just wanted to make sure it was sales and marketing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So it's been moved and supported by Councilor Johnson, supported by Councilor Paulson to move forward with the sales and marketing full-time position to have staff work on that moving forward. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, roll call please, Pam.
Johnson?
Aye.
Paulson? Aye. Friedrich?
Aye.
Huckabee?
Aye.
Beyondich? Could I ask a question in the middle of this? I meant to do it earlier.
Yes.
Yes?
Why not?
Thank you. And I guess I just wanted to clarify, is this for, would it be for contract or for me? It's just for me?
No,
I suggested it could be either
job
way.
It could be for you? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's-
Then I'm okay with that.
It's a full.
Sorry.
Okay, good. So, okay, so are you a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor signify by saying aye. We did aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No opposition. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Councilor Johnson?
I will move that we adjust the administrative assistant position to full-time and have staff work accordingly to make that whole.
Moved by Councilor Johnson and supported by Councilor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Councilor Johnson?
I will move to direct staff to come up with a housekeeping job description and then move forward from there.
Okay, motion by Councilor Johnson to have staff put together a job description for the housekeeping positions. Is there support? Support by Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Number 2 is done.
Yep, we're done. Okay, and anything else on item number 1 on the agenda, which is the, and once again, Brian, Jim, thank you very much. Very comprehensive presentation for us. It clarified a lot of things for us, and as a result of this professional presentation, we're moving forward with your request, so thank you for that. So we'll move to item number 2 on the agenda, which is review the event coordinator position job description. This is a carryover from our meeting on February 1st, 2022, part of our committee of the whole meeting. So we're here again to discuss. Item number 2 is to review the event coordinator position description. So again, we'll start from my right and go to my left as comments or questions may occur. And I'll start with Councilor Johnson. If you're ready, we'll come back around if you're not. But I have an opportunity to take a look at the job description, the draft as was presented then. It is the draft that is recommended by our staff. I believe the draft is comprehensive enough for us to look and review it moving forward. So I'm looking for questions, comments, or concerns from the collective body. Councilor Johnson?
Is this the 15, 16, and 17 in our packet, those pages? And we haven't determined a wage at this point.
Britt?
Because once the job description's approved, we have to negotiate that if it ends up in May, or ASME.
Okay.
We have to go back to ASME and have the negotiation with them and then come back to the council for approval.
Okay, so we're at step 2 after creation here.
Correct.
Gotcha.
We have to determine where it's going to land, which, that was the discussion at the last meeting, if you recall?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to review a little bit more.
Okay. We'll come back to you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Paulson?
I read this and I feel comfortable. It's pretty overall exactly like what we did through the flow chart. So I think you did a great job, your staff did a great job drafting this, but everything that is in here, Brian and Jim, makes sense to you with the flow that we just experienced.
Yeah, and to clarify one of the lines in here under position overview, it refers to coordinating events in parks. We've actually had a couple of people to reach out to us that would like to coordinate their wedding ceremony at the fountain and their reception here. So that position would then be working there in Olcott Park and here, so we're just covering all those bases.
But primarily, Brian, it would be with
Primarily,
internally within this city.
unless one of the events from here is doing just like that wedding at the fountain.
Unless, yeah, when they're connected together with this one event.
Correct.
Okay, and that makes sense to me. The other question that I had is, when we talked about this last time, did we talk about ASME versus MAPE? Did we have that discussion? And
We really landed on one.
where staff, and I think, is that something we can discuss right now and what maybe you would recommend be based on this job description and those responsibilities?
And I believe
And that's all I have to
And we did discuss that, but we hadn't made a decision that we talked about MAPE versus ASME, but there was no significant discussion, so let's have this discussion now. Councilor Paulson, thank you. Brian, anything, recommendations that will come from us apparently? All right, thank you. So let's start with the other way. How's that sound? Well, first to Councilor Barnzelli, any comments about this job description moving forward for the event coordinator position? And right now we're at the point where we're talking about whether it should be a MAPE position or an AFSCME position and what your thoughts are in that regard.
Well, I don't know, what's the difference between?
Well, one is a bargaining unit position under AFSCME local number 454 contract, and the other is a supervisory position under MAPE.
Mayor.
So supervisor, who would be this person's supervisor?
Jim. Jim Hunt.
Oh, okay. He's a good guy.
He is a good guy.
Yeah. Councilor Barnzelli, well, what the issue is that this event coordinator would whether it's in MAPE or whether it's ASME, would report to Jim Hunton, our Public Works Director.
If you recall, like the last meeting, Amanda had mentioned, this job description as written doesn't seem very supervisory. So if we were to make it a MAPE, we would have to make it a supervisory more job description.
Right.
So-
Mhm. Yep, I have that in the back of my mind as well.
Correct.
So, Councilor Beer,
I just have a question, Brett. If you look at page 15 and whatever the following pages, and you look at 31 and back further, it's the same title, the same thing. Is this the old description, one of these? Go look at where it says number 2. Is that the new or is it the draft? Because they got the same title, it's crossed out, event planner on the one.
Yeah. That is-
The same?
Yep.
Okay, so which one are we looking at for the draft right now?
Yep.
Okay. That's all I have.
Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. Looking at this and knowing all that's involved with an event person that has to work irregular hours, weekends, I see this more as a MAPE position. just for the supervising and the duties that will be required of them and the hours and the different times that they will be having to work. So I'm leaning more for a mate position on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to defer my comments. I don't know how I'll comment now as we go around the room. I looked at the job description. It could go either way. I mean, what I look at it is it's about scheduling and flexibility of schedule, and I think that's negotiated with respect to what our staff needs are with the last local 434, what hours of work, how we determine what that's going to be, and then come up with a schedule based upon this new job description. But so we have our Park and Rec Director in May. We have our facilities manager. I want to make sure I get it correct, slash event coordinator right now in MAPE. So do we need another MAPE position? So those are my thoughts. And you have an event coordinator who would be directed and delegated and overview and supervised by the facilities manager and a Park and Rec. So 3 MAPE positions, down the line, it seems to me that, from my perspective, that being a bargaining position would be more appropriate. And then adjustments ought to be made, because if there's going to be traveling from place to place, that's going to be the marketing and sales representative. But when it comes to holding events, if there's an event that needs attention in the afternoon or in early evening hours, the event coordinator will likely have to be there. And the concern that some people have had before is about, well, how the schedule is and how is that going to affect overtime in that regard, and how often that's not going to happen. So I think hours of work have to be part of that discussion moving forward within this job description. But other than that, I'm comfortable with it being AFSCME just for that specific purpose. So thank you. Councilor Frieden.
I'm favorable to the job description as it's written, as well as the creation of position. I would take the recommendation of Brian and Jim as to whether or not they feel that this would be more suited to a MAPE position as opposed to an AFSCME position, based on the tasks and responsibilities that would be inherent in that job and the time frame in which that job would have to be accomplished. Looking at the flow chart, the coordination that would take place between sales and marketing, event coordinator, and all of those below leads me to think it would be more aptly suited for a MAPE position in my mind, because they'd have to have some supervisory responsibility over the rest of those people on the flow chart if you weren't available for that particular event, and or in coordination with you as a MAPE person on that staff. So I'm leaning in the direction of a MAPE position, both for sales and marketing and event coordinator, but would rely on the recommendation of our 2 directors at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Frieden. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. I don't know, did you want Brian and Jim to give you their opinion now?
Well, if you prefer, if you want to defer to them, Councilor Paulson, we certainly can do that.
I will, you want.
Okay, put you on the spot. Recommendation from you, Brian, and of course also Jim. What are your thoughts in this regard?
Either direction, getting the position in here is the most important one. Which union it goes into, to me, really doesn't matter. The challenge with the current contract with AFSCME would be the 5 consecutive 8-hour days. AFSCME has been great to work with in memorandums of understanding, realizing that this facility is not run the same way as our other facilities in town. I'm sure they are willing to speak to that contract language and how they've worked with us for our other positions here in the building. And so if it ends up in AFSCME, I am completely fine with it being an AFSCME position.
So at this point in time, you have no recommendations. So either way you're comfortable with.
Let's just get the position in here, and if one union wants to petition for it over the other union, we can arm wrestle.
Okay, to tack on to that, Sherry, to tack on to what Brian has
I'm not
indicated.
going to preempt Jim here, but
As your HR director.
Would you use the microphone, please?
I see this position, this event coordinator position, being similar to a deputy chief. And your chief is gone, this deputy chief is going to fill in. This deputy chief, just like with the fire or the police, is going to be our face as event coordinator. They're going to have to direct staff, and I have seen in the past, well, you can't direct a coworker. You know, and I know we have team leaders, and they have a little bit, but there's that authority supervision difference.
Okay, and if I may just make a quick comment about that, if I may. The way I look at it is that you have the park and rec director, who's the big dog on campus, and then you have the facilities manager, right?
Event program service manager.
Event and program service manager. So that event coordinator works, from the way I look at it, under the direction of Jim Hunter. And so if the event coordinator says, you know, the way the flow chart reads, the event coordinator is passed on, now they have the responsibility, that individual is to take the events. Once they find out what the needs of these people, the client is, it goes to the event, the facilities manager, and says, this is what we need this is what I need, this is why our client needs this, we need to get this done. And who directs and delegates that staff? Not the event coordinator, the facilities manager. So I think he's actually the deputy chief for the way I look at it. So, Councilor Paulson, please continue.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm glad we're having this discussion. I think part of my concern, part of my concern, I have to be honest, is the overtime that would probably this employee would be engaged in, I would assume. Maybe I'm incorrect, but I would just think with that level of responsibility, there probably would be an awful lot. It's a big job. So I would kind of lean toward that MAPE in terms of directing staff. We don't have that though listed in the job description very well in terms of staff, directing the staff. So I think we almost have to choose which union and then kind of reword this just a little bit to include some of that language. But I think my primary concern is the overtime and being able, and I can appreciate maybe there could be an MOU written and agreed upon and agreed to. But I think just for right now, just listening to this discussion, I think that's my primary concern. And if there's no necessarily preference from either Jim or Brian, you know, I would be comfortable putting it under that MAPE just for the sake of the overtime. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilor. No. All right. Hello. Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Go to Councilor Johnson, and then we'll hear from the audience. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. And my concern is the day of delegation when there's 450 people here and we need to pull people from what they're doing to come in here and rearrange all the tables. And that was my question. How do we manage the odd hours versus the contract? And maybe this person has to come in for 3 hours in the morning because there's 2 meetings, but yet there's an event that evening, so they go home and they have to come back, or they do something else, or they end up spending all day here doing paperwork between noon and 5, and then at 5 the event starts. That's already a long day, and then having this person be able to know when there is a downtime, they can do what administrators do, and they take that time to themselves. When I picture this, I don't imagine questions going back up to the office if there's something that needs to be done. We need to delegate and give this person authority that if someone, while they're planning, they can make those decisions knowing they have the support of the other people instead of having to go back and check. I see that creating an extra timeline for for someone planning a wedding, for example, whatever that looks like. And again, being able to delegate to housekeeping that they need to come, no, I need you to stop cleaning the stands right now because there's not a hockey game for 2 hours, but I need you to come here because in a half hour we're going to have 400 people in this room and somebody just dropped, glitter all over, God forbid. But that's the kind of thing I think that we really need to be able to do. I know that, we do have team leads, but my understanding is all that stuff is voted upon by your coworkers. And we need to have people who the council has given authority to direct so that we can make sure this stuff goes off without a hitch. And then my other question is if it starts in one union and it's determined that's not appropriate, what's the process for switching?
There's a certification system through the State of Bureau of Agency Services, the petition to move from one to another.
So that's, which it means that it's not locked in one way or the other, but I too am leaning towards MAPE at this time, and I would be curious to know as we're moving forward. Amanda's here from Ask Me, but MAPE is not represented here, and I'd be curious to know if they have a person that would put their input in too. So those are just some questions I have.
Okay, thank you, Councilor.
But my concern is that these people all work for us, and Amanda doesn't. She works for her union. Who's the main person who's working for her union to advocate for that? That's where I was going with that.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Johnson. Obviously, ultimately, it's our decision to make. Councilor Berber was out of the room temporarily, so he has a couple of questions or comments. Councilor Berber.
Yeah, I just have one. If you get in a situation during an event or someplace and the person that's there, and you have a disciplinary problem during that time, you can't do it with same union membership unless you have special MOUs, but with being in charge, you can do a disciplinary action. And that's my concern. If something happens, you're going to say it's never going to happen. But I've been around for 26 years, and I've seen it happen many, many times where you end up in limbo. You can always grieve it later, but at the time, you need to have somebody do the function.
All right, thank you, Councilor Berber. Let's hear from the Aspen Local 454 representative, Amanda Metza. Amanda?
So is this on? It's not on.
Give me a different one.
So maybe I'm here to shock you. I'm not here to make a claim to this position, but I am here to object to this conversation. The State Bureau of Mediation Services certifies unions, and it certifies the recognition clause in each union. So MAPE has a recognition clause and ASME has a recognition clause, and we are recognized to represent employees whose job descriptions, job titles, not employees, job titles whose job descriptions fall under the recognition clause of our union. And it is the council's responsibility to determine a recognition, or to determine a job description. It is the bureau's, and then ultimately management, who implements the bureau's recognition clauses to determine where that position falls. If there's a disagreement, it goes to hearing, or to a unit clarification, and ultimately to a hearing. But that's not for anyone in this room, whether that's me or you, to decide. And so I think it's more important that the council focuses on the duties that fall within the job description and what your interests are within those duties. I guess a couple of comments that have been made that I would respond to. One related to discipline. Discipline is never conducted at the time of an event, right? And while foremen, team leaders, supervisors all certainly have responsibility to delegate tasks, if there is an issue with that task, the discipline is conducted later, right? And as it relates to the issue of overtime, MAPE also has overtime. The employer, when you have salaried employees, does not have the right under the law, hopefully you both know this, to work people indefinitely and for in a number of hours beyond. You can't work somebody 80 hours just because they have a salary. At a certain point, you do owe them overtime or comp time. And so in terms of hours and flexibility, as Brian noted, we're willing to work with that, in terms of a letter of understanding if it is determined that this belongs in our union. But whether somebody is exempt or non-exempt isn't a marker of their status as involved in MAPE or AFSCME. And AFSCME certainly represents exempt employees, and we certainly represent exempt and non-exempt employees in terms of FLSA status in the same contract. So none of those are a hindrance to them being involved in this bargaining unit or the other bargaining unit. But ultimately, our interest isn't in that conversation, and I don't think you should be focused on writing a job description to take you one way or another. I just encourage you to write the job description for the job you want, and then we can have that conversation later. But as your management has noted, it is just important to get this position going, get this position hired, and we can have that conversation about where they appropriately belong as a secondary conversation.
Thank you, Amanda. Anything from you, Scott? No. We're good? Okay, so Councilor Johnson, you have something else?
Yeah, I just had this thought, the other thing this would allow for, or we should be considering based on what Amanda said, is allowing Brian and Jim to both have time off at the same time. Like, how do we manage that now? Brian was gone for a week plus. I think Jim slept here, to be very honest. And that in a facility like this, having two people is great to be able to make it run, but a third person at City Hall, we have levels, we have the ability to do stuff, and having a backup to allow for our staff to take exactly what Amanda said, that comp time or vacation time or whatever, and not have to worry about Britt getting a phone call at 3 o'clock in the middle of a meeting because an administrative decision needs to be made in this building. I think that's something to consider too, and maybe that is part of what we look at in the job description is the backup of supervisory duties when Jim or maybe we win a national award for this building and they have to go to DC to accept it. We still need somebody here to keep day-to-day business going. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Johnson. So I think we need to take some action today about this position. I'm urging the elected body here to make a recommendation to approve the job description. If some changes need to be made, some concerns about the job description itself, I'm comfortable the way it is. And then once we move forward, if we do vote to approve this job description, does that move to the City Council for a full vote? And so that will be at the next meeting. And so from my perspective, I'm looking for a motion from the elected body. I think we need to approve the job description. I'm comfortable with it as proposed, and it's been vetted significantly as a result of that, and to make some changes in order to accommodate the potential for trying to guide it to one bargaining unit or another. I think the job description will stand on its own merits, and a determination is made as to what organization is going to be representing this particular employee. So, looking for a motion or comments or questions from the elected body moving forward. Do we have any? Councilor Johnson.
I would like to see more of what we're looking for when it comes to being able to direct staff and to coordinate events in this building. I think that's what I hear us all saying, is that we need more the ability to direct, and then however that falls out as we move forward is fine. But the ability to work, work schedule, flexible work hour schedule, maybe that needs to be specifically, say, possible split shifts or something, however that works in HR world. I think it needs to say to direct staff, to be able to pull staff from other parts, those things, so that, and then like Amanda said, wherever that fits in, great, but this person is not going to do this alone. And the way I read this, talks a lot about customer service, but it doesn't talk about a lot of interaction with the other staff. And I think that might be something we need to focus on a little bit more, is how does this person, what ability does this person have to interact with the other staff? to be coming, because in all reality, this person may need to call somebody in the middle of a wedding to come shovel. Like we need to call someone from Public Works maybe to come in. We need extra plowing because we're in the middle of a snowstorm that started in the middle of the wedding. So that's what I would like to see. My request to staff would be to create some more employee relation descriptions in here. Thank you.
Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. And after hearing the different conversation going around, I would agree with that. I think I'm not ready to completely move on it yet until we get things a little bit more tightened up in this job description. Thank you.
So have we approved the position itself? Well, then I think we should approve the position itself, then work on the job description and come back with a recommendation as soon as possible. That's where I'm at. Are you amenable to that, Brian? Jim? Rick? Everyone else? Councilor Paulson, and then over to Councilor Freedy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm definitely amenable to that. But I know we need to get on this like right away. So I'm totally fine with approving the position, that's great. But could we, Rich and whoever is working on this, could we have it before our next council meeting so that we could actually, if everybody reviews it quickly, we could, well, it wouldn't be quickly enough, but over the weekend, to go through that. And if that be the case, then we could make, because it has to go before the council anyway. So will that give you enough time to do what we need to do to maybe add what Councilor Johnson is requesting?
Yeah.
And Councilor Beyondich? Okay. And then I guess I would go ahead and move the position, I would go ahead and move the position forward of the event coordinator.
So Councilor Paulson moves to approve the event coordinator position and supported by Councilor Freely, and then direct staff to move for some additional information regarding the specific job description. But the motion on the floor is to approve the job description. Is there any further discussion? I'd just like to make...
Position.
Yeah, the job position.
Not
We've
the
already...
description.
Actually, the creation of the job position. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, so I just want to, before we take a vote, I won't be here next Tuesday, so there'll be one last vote if the vote is taken, and whatever the majority rules, obviously I'm supportive of it. So it's been moved and supported to approve the position of event coordinator. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Do we need a motion for have staff to bring back more information with respect to some amendments to the job description for us to consider prior to the next council meeting? Looking for a motion for that. So moved. Moved by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Anything else with respect to this, Britt? We're all done. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Hopefully, we're moving forward with these positions. And before we adjourn this committee, the special committee, the whole personnel committee, the whole meeting, Brian, any final comments?
No, we'd just like to echo our appreciation of your support of this facility and the community's continued support of this facility as we grow and evolve into what everybody foresaw this place could be.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Councilor Freedy, any final comments? You think you had something there?
Some of it we just accomplished. Maybe one play all this, like that. Or that. Take care.
Well, we could do that at the council meeting, where you could, we had a discussion at the personnel hall meeting, it'll be a complete report about that for the general public to view. I think that would be more appropriate unless you feel it's necessary for us to do it here. Okay, we'll do it at the next council meeting, Councilor Freedy. Okay, very good. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thanks, staff. Great presentation. instead of pushing the wet noodle. You got us moving forward, so we're good to go. So thank you everybody for coming. We will stand adjourned. The time is 10:28 a.m. Thank you everybody. Have a great day. We are adjourned.